So this video is all about shading spheres. And if you want, you can find an object at your house that's about the size you want your circle to be and trace it. One tip that I have though about trying to draw circles, when we write, our hand is usually down here on our pencil and we're moving our fingers to write. But for sketching, you actually want to back up on your pencil and loosen your grip and move more from your wrist or from your elbow. And then you'll be able to get a better circle without tracing instead of going like this with your pencil. And I don't get mine right the first time. I make all these sketchy lines until I'm happy with it. And then I make more of a definite line where I want it to be. So this definitely doesn't need to be perfect, but what we're doing is we're practicing different shading techniques. And for this exercise, we're going to imagine that there's a sun here. So the rays would come down and hit the spheres in this direction, which means this shadow would fall this way, right, away from the sun. And the shadows are usually kind of like a squished oval. And then this one would start to angle a little bit more this way. And then over here it would start to angle even more to the side because of the way the sun is hitting it. So that's kind of where your shadows would fall. And I'll start to darken all this up if it's tough to see. So what we're going to do over here, I'll write this in ink. This one's going to be blending. This one's going to be stippling. And this one's going to be cross-hatching. And then scribbling. Now I'll get all of these started, but then we'll kind of do the magic of TV switch, and I'll show you one that I already have done, just because it would take a while for me to finish this, and I know you don't want to watch a 30-minute video of me shading. So the furthest away from the sun is going to be the darkest. So on this blending one, I'm going to just establish the edge of my sphere here, and I'm going to start getting this really dark. And then I will just gradually get lighter as I move towards this side over here where the sun is hitting it. So I was pressing harder with my pencil. Now I'm lightening up and I'm not pressing as hard with my pencil. And I'm kind of following like this curve that the sphere would have naturally. And then you can smudge blend with your fingers. You can smudge blend with like a Kleenex or a paper towel. If you have an actual blending stump at home, you can use that, because I know some of you have some art supplies at home. And I'll just keep adjusting the darkness. If I end up shading where the sun's hitting it, you can just go back in and erase the light spot. So I'd work on this a little bit more, but it'll go from dark to light where the sun hits it. Then the shadow, it'll be really dark right next to the sphere because almost no light's peeking through. And then it'll gradually get lighter the further it gets away. And shadow edges too, as they get out further, they get a little more smudgy or muddled, like you don't know where the edge is. Okay, next one's stippling. I'm gonna grab, you could use any ink pen for this really. Probably my favorite is fine point Sharpie, if you have that, but otherwise use whatever you have. Stippling is, some people call it pointillism. And you're literally gonna make dots. And on this darker side, I'm gonna go a little further. You're gonna make dots really close together to make that dark, dark shade. And you can see how this one's going to take me a little while, so I won't do it to completion in this video. But then as you get further out and it's lighter, you start making the dots further apart so that it looks lighter. Same thing in the shadow. Right here, the dots would be really close together because it's so dark. But then as I get further away, I'd start to make my dots further apart so it looks lighter. And I'll show you a finished one in just a minute. This one, cross-hatching. Cross-hatching used to be my least favorite. And really what it is hatching, you make a series of lines going one direction, and then cross-hatching, you cross over them going in a different direction. And you can do multiple directions. But the closer you make your lines together, the darker the hatching will be. And the more directions you cross over, the darker the hatching will be. And then if you make them further apart, it'll be lighter. And this can be a little bit messy, but it's somewhat controlled. When I'm hatching a sphere, I usually make my hatch lines somewhat curve with the sphere, just because I like the way that that looks. And I'm going to go multiple directions over here to get it really dark. This one takes a little while too, so I'll start it and then I'll show you kind of the finished product here. And then as you move further away or closer to the light source, you can make your hatching further apart so it looks lighter. And same down here, I can hatch really close together in different directions to make it nice and dark, and then I'll gradually have it further apart so it gets lighter out this way. I'll show you a finished one of that in just a minute. And then scribbling, you're going to do that with ink too, and you might have noticed some of these I prefer to use a pen, but again, anything you have will be fine. Scribbling is a little messier. So you literally scribble. I'm changing directions, all different directions, to kind of fill in the light spots where I want it to be dark. So there's not really a lot of rules here. But then my scribbles will get further apart as I want this to get lighter. And again, I'm kind of following like the curve of the sphere, just because I like the way that looks. Here I'll scribble really close together and try to fill in all the gaps. And then get lighter as I get away from the sphere. So let me show you what these all look like finished, just so you get an idea. So here's one that I worked on a little while longer. So there's the blending with the pencil, stippling, crosshatch, scribbling. So this is good shading practice, and it's nice to practice on something like a sphere where you're not worried about a face or hands or something more detailed. But you can do all of these things in any of your drawings, which I'll show you more later. So go ahead and do this 4 sphere shading exercise, and then we'll move on and do something else.